Hello, welcome to Wisdom Nuggets for Impartation. This is lesson number 3. We did 2 lessons previously. We talked already about how we should not be just observers of the anointing, but begin to have a great desire. We also talked about what the impartation is. Well, today I want to talk to you about how God uses existing anointed vessels to anoint new vessels. So this is the way God works, and there are many examples in the Bible. God would use a vessel that He's already anointed to anoint a new vessel. And that's one of the principles we need to catch very early, and so we can get anointed without sweating. It is no point struggling and sweating to try and catch an anointing. Just find an anointed vessel and do what it takes to get that anointing on you. Now, the first example I want us to look at is the case of Moses and the 70 elders. Numbers chapter 11 verse 25. The Bible says, "And the Lord came down in a cloud and spake unto him," this is Moses, "and took of the spirit that was upon him," that is Moses, "and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass that when the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease." So here God took the anointing on a vessel that He had already anointed, that is Moses, and then He put it on the 70 elders, and then they began to prophesy and they began to exhibit gifts upon their lives. So that's a good example of how God uses existing anointed vessels to anoint new vessels. The second example is a case of Elijah and Elisha in 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 15. You see here again, this Bible says, "And when the sons of the prophets which were to view at Jericho saw him, they said, the spirit of Elijah that rests on Elisha." So the spirit of Elijah that rests on Elisha. "And they came to meet him and bowed themselves to the ground before him." Because they could see that the spirit that was on Elijah was now on Elisha. So this is also a very clear example of how God uses anointed vessels already, and vessels that He has anointed, and then He would take of that anointing and put that anointing on newer vessels. I think God is very smart, and if I were Him, I would do the same thing. So stop sweating, look for anointed vessels and do what it takes to be anointed and get anointed. The third example, now let's move into the New Testament. We see the example of Elijah and John the Baptist. Here in the New Testament, Elijah is called Elias, all right? The spirit of Elias. So in Luke chapter 1 verse 17 it says, "And he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elias, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." So this is talking about the prophecy about John the Baptist. It says he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elias. In Mark chapter 9 and verse 13, you see here Jesus talking about John the Baptist. He says, "But I say unto you that Elias is indeed come." Jesus here was actually referring to John the Baptist, and he was referring to him as Elias, because John the Baptist walked in that same anointing, the same spirit, and he actually walked in the spirit of Elias or Elijah. So he says, "But I say unto you that Elias is indeed come, and they have done unto him whatsoever they listed, as it is written of him." And the final example also in the New Testament is the example of Paul and the Romans. In Romans chapter 1 verse 11, you see here it says, "For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end ye may be established," that I may impart to you some spiritual gift. So you see here again the importance of a vessel that is already anointed, and the presence of that anointed person, God using that anointed person to impart, in other words, to give the anointing to other vessels that did not have the anointing. And this is how God works. And I believe that as children of God and children of the house, we need to learn this principle early, and so that we would begin to chase the anointing and like the anointing and acquire the anointing by the proper processes that needs to take place. Now, next week I'll share with you how you can tap into the anointed vessels for impartation. But this is the way God anoints us. So get smart and begin to seek the anointing, and seek it in a smart way so that you will be anointed. God bless you until I come your way again next week with wisdom nuggets for impartation. Stay blessed, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.